what's up, everyone? This is Race to the Finish. This is Carlos, and now we're moving on to our 9th episode. So we're almost at 10, and I decided to bring on somebody that I met a long time ago, from a clothing brand out over there in the west side of the country. And so, Rick, I just have you introduce yourself.
What's going on, people, man? My name is Rick Montaño. I'm the owner of Barely Broke Clothing out here based in the Inland Empire, which is about 60 miles east of Los Angeles.
Oh, cool. All right, sweet. So, what I can say for sure is that I really don't even remember how I came across your brand. Like, seriously, I think it was probably like on like Instagram or something, or I saw somebody wearing something that it was it said like "Born of an Immigrant," right? And I'm like, oh shoot, like this hat is dope. Like I gotta buy it, because it kind of spoke to me. I was born of an immigrant, right? I was born here in this country, whereas like my parents are from El Salvador. And what was I going to say? And so to see that like represented on clothing, like I wanted to don that. Like I wanted to show like that's something that like represented me. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of how I came across your stuff.
Yeah, man, that's really the point in making that whole campaign was really to just bring awareness to that. Most people I grew up with, they're born of immigrant as well. So there was really no brand or anything catering to that. So that's really just it came from a conversation between some friends, and we figured out like, man, there's no brands that are just like talking about first generation children,
Right.
out here. There's no representation. It's kind of like it just kind of got lost in the whole fashion industry, I feel like. So it just came from a conversation in 2014. So that's where it came.
I think that's when it was about, like when I like first like found the hat. I think that's when it was. I don't actually remember when I started college, like 2013. So it must have been a year after. Yeah, it was 2015 when I first saw your stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, dude, I remember like I bought the hat, and then I think I hit you up or something on Instagram, and I was like, hey, like this stuff is pretty cool. And I was going to meet this big like activist for the undocumented community. His name is like, I forgot his name, like Jose something, but
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I remember
And
that. I
so,
remember exactly when you reached out, and that was actually, it was crazy because you reached out during a time where I kind of was like, the concept of it really wasn't resonating with people. Like it wasn't the sales, they were like sales wise, it wasn't really hitting. Like people weren't really understanding it. And then around that time, it probably took a couple years to really get moving. I think the moment that it took off was when Trump got elected as president. I think from that moment on is when it kind of went viral. But before that, it was hard, man. It was people like you that were the ones supporting, people that were actually like on the ground, actually doing something within these topics that were the ones basically buying it only. There was no like massive, it wasn't like regular people. It was people that were really in the communities that really resonated with them, and they wanted to have conversations. They wanted to actually wear it and have somebody ask them about it and create a dialogue from it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I remember, so I just looked it up. His name was Jose Antonio Vargas, and he came out to my college to do a talk. And I think that's when I actually hit you up for the first time. I'm like, hey, like this dude, like he was on CNN, like he's pretty viral right now. Like I'm going to wear your hat to this meeting that I'm going to have with him. And he actually asked me about it. He just like, I like that hat. Where'd you get it? And I told him about your website. So I don't know if he ever bought anything from it, obviously, but like that, that's just goes to show like when you have like an influential brand, right? But that speaks more to, than just people's wallets, obviously, but like more towards like ethical values, like they're gonna align with it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's what I thank you for. I mean, obviously you're an artist, you do a lot more things with with your clothing that you sell on Barely Broke. And so I think that's like really inspirational, you know what I'm saying? What I see like in our community and stuff is that a lot of us kind of get scared to go out and create and really kind of look at our craft and say like, hey, I can make something out of it. We're so quick to be defeated. So like, I guess I kind of want to know a little bit more about like your background. I never really had like an in-depth conversation with you. And
Right.
so like, tell me a little bit more about Rick. Like, what are you about? Like, what's your inspiration with Barely Broke and everything that you do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, at first, like I've always been into fashion since I was young, so the fashion thing has always just been part of me. But I never really got into like the whole political, social aspect of it until later on in life. So maybe 2012, I started realizing like there was really I didn't have a purpose when I was creating. There was no purpose. It was just more like, whatever was trending or whatever, maybe music inspired, or the inspirations would just be like outside, but it wouldn't be actual like views that I had or things
Hmm.
that I wanted to say, and I think around 2000 probably 13, I was like, you know what, I switched the whole direction of the brand. So the brand was kind of a cool little hype brand at first, which was like, I started using like a lot of colors that were matching shoes, and like, during that time it was all about like sneakers and what clothing brand had like the cool pieces to match the sneakers, and
Right.
just a lot of that trendy stuff. Um, but I didn't feel good about it. Mind you, this is the crazy part, is I was actually making a lot more money during that time than the time like than now, actually, because
Yeah.
that's actually, the hype stuff, believe it or not, is just what the kids want, and
Yeah, that's for sure.
it's just what sells. So I actually took a big hit in sales when I switched over to a more political brand. My sales
Right.
definitely declined, which was, I mean, it in a sense, like it didn't, I didn't really care at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm actually having fun though. I actually feel like I'm making something, and it's like, it represents something. It's like I had a passion behind it at that point. You know what I mean? So
Hmm. And it's interesting to hear because I mean, so I'm out here in like Cleveland, the Cleveland area, right? And so things are a lot more like, I guess you could say, difficult to talk about when it comes to like social issues and stuff like that. So I mean, I've been to Southern California. I got family out there, and it seems like a lot of people are like really, you know, at least down with like having a conversation.
yeah,
And so it's interesting to hear like sales kind of went down when you shifted over to more of like a social awareness type of a brand, you know what I'm saying? And so why do you think that is? Like what have you ever heard like about any pushback or anything? Or
I mean, I honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I think what it is that I think a lot of people are scared to wear it and
Mhm.
have to have those conversations. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to just wear something that's cool, and and really have nobody really hound you or be like, oh, well, what does that mean? And just kind of, because it carries a lot with it. If you have a hat that says "Born of an Immigrant," you're gonna have conservative people like want to talk and be like, well, they're gonna have their whole rhetoric that they give you
Right.
from wearing a hat, and also there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, oh, well, why would you put your family on blast? Like, you're
I
basically,
feel that.
you know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
that. Then it's like that aspect of it. So it's like there. It's difficult, man, because I feel like people have to actually stand up and have a conversation, and I think most people don't want to do that. So it's easier almost to not wear it, or not. It's easier to support it, but just be like, yo, you know what? I support you, but I don't know if I could wear it, because I don't know if I want
Right.
to. I don't know if I want to have those conversations. And it's true. I understand, man. I get it. Like, you are gonna get people are gonna ask you questions, and even not even the Born of Immigrant itself, but I had another concept, was called America's Nightmare, and I spelled America with 3 Ks, and just talking about just police brutality and racism,
Yeah.
and that T-shirt, a lot of people were scared to wear it because they didn't know how people were gonna, they didn't know the meaning of it and how people were gonna take offense to it. It was actually from a Tupac lyric. He had a song called
Hmm.
America's Nightmare, and he talks about racism, and how America, they definitely have, there's racism built into America, and the whole T-shirt was kind of about that. And that T-shirt didn't sell well either, just because of the fact that it was really, really controversial. So, and it's tough, man. Trust me. Like a lot of times, it's so much easier to just make a brand that's like that doesn't touch on
Like all hype.
politics. Yeah, just hype doesn't touch on politics. You know, get it on all these hype stores. And then just make a lot of money and just have fun. But I mean, for me, I just, it's just not about that, man. It's just really passionate. I'm really passionate about just having people just speak on these topics and just really like pushing that. If you're proud to be born of an immigrant, like you're gonna wear it and you're gonna speak about it. You know what I mean? And like by having a shirt or a hat, it's almost like you're forcing yourself to get out of that comfort zone.
Right.
It's a
And
lot.
I do remember the America's Nightmare. I think you had like a hat out there too, right?
Yeah, there was a hat and then it was a jacket. It was like a whole
It was a
ensemble.
whole line, yeah. And so like I'm pretty sure one of my friends, he's actually gonna end up being a guest on the show later, but I'm pretty sure he has one of the hats. Like, because I remember I walked into work one day and I was wearing the Born of an Immigrant hat. And he asked me hey, that's different. Like where'd you get that? And I said, well, I showed him the website and he actually went on and bought that hat, and so that's something else that I think is interesting about the work that you do is that you don't only speak to like Latinx folks, but also like Black folks and folks of other demographics too.
Yeah, even
And
Asian as well. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
just just everybody really. I mean, I also dropped a Unity collection that actually just represents unification amongst all races. So
right,
you know what I mean. I
right,
do try not to be too like divided, like because I also don't want to push like division between races. Um,
hmm,
but I can't help but to talk about what's really going on. You know what I mean? Like brown folk are really really out here getting the short end of the stick. You know, Black African Americans are as well. So it's like I'm just speaking on facts. And trust me, like it would be lovely for there to be unification. That I mean, if racism was like completely eradicated, that's the goal. You know what I'm saying?
hmm,
And I do try to speak on that with collections as well. So it's not only just like keeping it within that. I also try to bring awareness to unity on top of.
right. And it's important too. I mean, so I just got off this meeting and stuff because I'm about to go out to Seattle for this conference and I'm going to be on this panel and it's a Latino panel and a lot of a lot of us are from different backgrounds. And they were asking like what does it mean to be someone who's Latinx? And I was like, well, it doesn't necessarily mean to look like something, like we're from many different countries. And so the conclusion that we came down to is like, all of us are always fighting with each other because we're trying to fight for the spotlight. Some people are taking up too much room, some people don't have enough room at all. So it's kind of finding that happy medium. And then that's when we ultimately want to reach unity, is to figure out where that respect lines between all of us. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so I guess what I want to know more about though is, so like, Born of an Immigrant, right? And so I can say this as one of your customers, I can say that, but also like as an admirer of like what you're doing, is just that phrase alone, speaks to so many people, right? So I guess what inspired you to really put it out there on clothing? You know what I'm saying? Like there has to be a story just behind that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it actually took a long time because initially in 2012 was when I thought about it. I was like, I need to make a shirt that's for first generations, like
Hmm.
children. You know what I mean? And at first, it was going to be like it was just going to say first generation, and I was like, nah, that's kind of like too simple. And I battled with this probably like the whole year. It was a whole year from 2012 to 2013 where I was like trying to find the right way of like the right verbiage to put on
Right.
clothing. So at first, before Born of an Immigrant, it was going to be Child of an Immigrant. That's actually the two final sayings that I came down to, and I kind of battled with both of them, and I thought that Child of an Immigrant just didn't sound as powerful as Born of an Immigrant. Even though a lot of people
Yeah.
have something to say about Born of an Immigrant, a lot of people say grammatically it's not correct.
Really?
Uh, yeah, there's actually been like English professors that have hit me up and like are just people that are super like linguistic, and they actually said that it's not proper. It's not a proper way of saying it.
Interesting. It
Yeah, like
sounds right to me. I mean, I don't, whatever. But okay.
me too, bro. Like for me, it was like, oh, that's it. It just clicked at the moment. But like, I guess if you break down the verbiage of it, it's I don't know. It's not grammatically perfect.
Ah,
But you know,
it's
for
all
me, I
right.
was like, bro, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and try to rearrange my whole thing just
No, I
because
get it.
a couple people think it's grammatically wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's more important, the message or like the fact that you get bothered that it's not grammatically correct? No, I get what you're saying. I want to share a little story with you because I kind of went through something like that before. So when I was a student at John Carroll University, it's a school up here in Cleveland, and I was an executive for the Latin American Student Association at my school. And there was this thing that just went down. It literally just went down at my school. Like a bunch of Trump supporters were going wild about this sociology project where they put up a fence in front of the student center. You can still get into the student center. That was They just said like, oh well, this is like too much. Like no, we gotta and it just turned into this whole thing where like eventually a bunch of our how can you say our members were like spat on, like they were telling us to go back to our own countries and stuff. It really just blew up into this whole thing, right? And like this is real. Like a lot of people don't believe this actually happens because like
Oh, that's
Facebook,
true.
they'll put the videos out there, and then you have the conspiracy theorists that are like, oh well, they were hired by the Democrats to fake it. It's like what?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
no, bro. Like this is actually something that I lived through. But anyways, back to the story. So, we had to respond, obviously, not like violently, but like we had to respond. And so we teamed up with the Students for Social Justice, and we slept outside. We literally like slept outside, and it was cold. Like it was in between like the fall and winter months, so it wasn't like snowing, but it was cold. But we still slept outside. We got a projector and everything. We started putting up like activism videos and all of that. And the next day, I woke up and I didn't go to class or anything. So if there's any students out there, don't take my example. Just do what you need to do when it calls for it. But that's what I'm saying. I
Right.
didn't go to class at all. And but you know, long story short, we came up with a movement, and it was called Somos Unidos, and it was my idea to call it Somos Unidos. And apparently, that's also grammatically incorrect in Spanish,
Right.
and it's supposedly supposed to be Estamos Unidos. But the idea was, it's like Somos is more so like a permanent thing, rather is Estamos means like it can come to an end. I wanted to send the message like, no, like we're always unified no matter what. Like it doesn't matter like what happens, like you're never going to break us type of message. And so that was the deeper message of it. But then you have like my Spanish professors and then other Spanish speakers on my campus telling me, nah, like we look dumb now, like it's grammatically correct.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't care. Like that's the message, you know, like you're missing the point, like by complaining about this, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And, I mean, I think about it like this, bro. You think about the biggest companies in the world. They're not
Right.
actually they're not actually words. You know, like Nike, Adidas. Those aren't actual.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and you're talking about the biggest companies in the world. So it's like it doesn't always have to be like perfect. You know what I mean? As long as you
Right.
have the message, as long as the message is there and it's solidified. You know what I mean? I think that's the most important part. All the other stuff. I mean, misspellings is one thing.
Oh
I
yeah.
get I get that, but you
But then
know,
you have like people who clearly misspell things. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like
exactly,
that's different.
exactly,
So kind of moving forward and stuff, like you have other imagery on your clothes, right? So obviously with Unity you had the fist going up in the air with the different skin tones. But
right.
something I want to know a little bit more about, and this I always kind of wondered this personally, so I'm gonna find out myself too, is the strawberry. You know, like you have like strawberry imagery on your clothes, you know, like you hand painted on them and everything. So like
Right.
tell me a little bit about that.
So the strawberries, actually, it started off as a collaboration. One of my good friends, Nicholas Mayfield, he's a painter, designer as well, and we were trying to think of a way to collaborate. And he uses oranges because he's from Riverside, and they're known for like their oranges. So that's kind of his whole thing. So when we talked about a collaboration, we were trying to think of something that represents, our collaboration. And I was like, let's do something like a fruit. And I was just digging deep, and I realized that, even my grandpa, he was a bracero, during the Cesar Chavez
Mm.
era, and he picked strawberries at one point of his life. So I was like, oh, this is perfect because it also represents like, the whole political movement of the 70s, but also like it's personal to me and my family. So yeah, that's just kind of how we just ran with that. And then so many people just loved it. They just loved the fact that there was just strawberries. Like they just hadn't really seen that. And then unfortunately, Gucci came out with a whole strawberry collection
Oh man.
right after that, and they actually like they really mimicked one of our pieces, and it was like a whole thing. But I mean, eventually we got over it. But then when that happened, we went harder. So we were like, you know what? Instead of just complaining and being like, "Oh, Gucci took our stuff," like F Gucci and stuff like that. Like instead of taking that route, we went more of the route where it was like, let's make another collection, kind of just like making it better than what they tried to do. So we did another strawberry collection just to like let Gucci know that like that that wasn't our only concept. We can make another collection if we wanted to, and just to show our creativity as independent designers, and without having to be like complaining. We just kind of made the product speak for itself. So we kind of reintroduced the strawberries, and people just seem to love that whole concept, and it's dope because a lot of people have been emailing me saying that like their grandparents were braceros as well, or they, you know,
Right.
and they were like, it's dope because I've never heard anybody try to represent that in fashion. So like
Yeah.
it was nostalgic for people because they kind of traced it back to their family roots. So now it became like, oh, I want to wear that to represent my grandma, or I want to wear that to represent my uncle. And you know what I mean? So it just became a lot more powerful because people were just like starting to like tap into their roots. And I mean, ultimately that's what it's about, like to wear something that's like really, really meaningful to you. And it has a meaning, not just wear like a tee, like, oh, why'd you get that tee? Like, oh, I don't know. It just looked cool on the rack. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's more like, oh, I got this because, my mother or my grandfather did this, and and Delano and blah blah blah, like, and that just is just so much more powerful on why you purchase something. You know what I mean? So
Right. And
that yeah.
didn't you put out like a post or something? Like I actually now that you brought up that whole thing about Gucci, I swear I saw a post about that, and that's crazy. Like they got eyes on you. You know what I'm saying? Like looking at your designs and stuff like that and mimicking it. But it's even better that you're even still pushing through with it because at the end of the day, I mean, you seen the scandals that Gucci just got themselves into. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
and it happened around the same time, which is crazy because it was almost like karma, because literally
Right.
the blackface thing happened right after we seen the strawberry. They actually didn't use strawberries; they used mushrooms, but
Oh.
they laid
Okay.
out the way they also use strawberries for another thing, but the specific jacket they replaced the strawberries with the mushrooms, and
Interesting.
it literally
Jeez.
laid it out. So they were probably like, I don't know how Gucci is involved in like design. I don't know if they have a design team that's actually like on social media, kind of getting inspirations, or like, I don't really know how that works, but it definitely was undeniable that it came from that. And then the strawberry thing after that, and then the blackface thing, it was just
Right.
like, they just got hit back to back to back. And I mean, a lot of people were like, well, doesn't that take away from your whole thing if they're just focused on the blackface now? So like, they really don't care about you guys anymore getting jacked. Now they just care about, now it's just a blackface issue. So it kind of, but I was like, nah, you know what? It's just karma. Like, however they're gonna get it, if it wasn't through us, at least they're getting reprimanded through the blackface thing.
Right.
Just to have the company just change when it comes to just design. Like, you can't go around taking people's stuff and like expect for it to be cool. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get called out eventually, and I mean that's how they got called out. So as long as
Yeah.
as long as there was awareness to it, it's all that really matters.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, yeah, like that, like you said, that's what matters. And what was I gonna say? So like, yeah, it's the message behind like what you're putting behind your art and stuff like that too. This whole conversation reminds me of this episode that I had with my friend Malcolm. He's just getting started with his clothing brand. And like to the point where he's stitching his own clothes and everything. And so
I think
but he brought up Gucci, and he said, he's African American, so he's a black entrepreneur.
okay.
And so we started kind of exploring that realm of a conversation, and he was like, I just kind of wish that my people would stop buying into these big designer brands that just kind of look at us as, and I'm paraphrasing, as nobodies, pretty much, that could just take advantage of our culture and pretty much make fun of us. I mean, because of that blackface sweater that went out there, and it's not only the black community that participates so much in this too. It's like, I think that's what makes brands like yours super important, because it kind of refocuses everything to what actually matters. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But also, I mean, it's also pretty interesting too that you brought up, like, earlier on in the episode. It's like, well, some people are probably scared to wear the clothes because they don't want to have that conversation. They're maybe a little bit more introverted with their activism, right? They
Right.
kind of want to handle things behind closed doors, or behind the curtains and backstage type of thing.
Right.
And so,
Or they just don't really care about the topic. So
yeah, that's true.
they might not even just be, like want to do research or even know what's going on. Sometimes it's easier to turn a blind eye on what's really happening.
Hmm.
So that might
Yeah,
be.
and so I guess for those type of people, like, how, I guess, what else, like, could they do? Like, how could Barely Broke, offer itself to those types of people? You see what I'm saying? Or what do you think? What do you think are some ideas that you can kind of, you know, um, how can you say, appeal to that type of demographic or psychographic?
Well, I mean, to be honest, man, like I don't really care to like appease everybody. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
as a brand, bro. Like, you really have to be specific on who you're targeting. And if
Hmm.
you try to get everybody on board, it's like it doesn't really work, man. There's always going to be people that want this, want that. Like, oh, you should have did that in this red color, or oh, you should have put this on the sweater instead of the crew neck. Like,
Right. Everyone got to have an opinion.
yeah, there's always going to be opinions, man, and you just kind of have to like just really focus on what your meaning is and what you want to portray, and then just kind of like there'll be people that don't like it, that be like, hey, I can't wear that. It's just not me, and I respect that. You know what I mean? Like, they can just wear another brand that they feel more comfortable. But I mean, I'm also working on just stuff that just says Barely Broke, just kind of has the branding of the brand
Right.
without it being because at the end of the day, the name of the brand's Barely Broke, not Born of an Immigrant.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's just a concept within the brand. But I'm working on this new collection that I'm dropping next month, and a lot of stuff just has the branding of Barely Broke, just kind of just going back to the essence of the brand and just the name of it. Because at the end of the day, bro, a lot of people just like the name Barely Broke because of just what it means. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's just when I started the brand, that's what I felt like. I was making decent money, but I mean, obviously, I wasn't rich, but I wasn't like on the street homeless. So like, it was almost like I was like, it was like a middle ground, and I felt the only way to I was trying to figure out ways to portray that verbiage. Like, what does a common person feel like when they start a company? Like, if they're struggling and they're coming up, but they have a little bit of money. Obviously, if you have like, to me, if you have like a roof over your head, you have a car. You know what I mean? You're good. You're not broke. A lot
Right.
of people be like, oh, I'm so broke, but they have the essentials. There's really people out here that are broke, like they have nothing, that are be on the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
So It was just a way of me figuring out like a statement or like a everyday person feels. Um, like and that's just kind of like that's where the name came from. So it's the name itself is just powerful too. So I kind of want to, for the people that maybe not are into political stuff but are more into the actual name of the brand, I do have things for them. You know what I mean? So there is stuff for somebody that maybe wants to be a supporter but just doesn't want to be political.
Right. And there are all those types of folks too. And the only reason I ask is because so I had a conversation with another one of my friends, and she mentioned that activism looks differently in different ways. I mean, it's an obvious statement, but activism can be done in education on a one-on-one basis. It doesn't have to be like out there in the streets rioting or participating in a public display or anything like that. It doesn't always have to be the stereotypical imagery of activism, right? And so there might be those folks who that don't want to wear that across their chest. That type of person is not me. I want to wear it across my chest. I feel obligated to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I want to make sure that listeners out there are still receiving your message no matter what, whether it be they buy the clothing or hear what you have to say through this podcast or anything like that, because I truly believe in what you're doing. I mean, so I guess how I can align is like this, like creators, they obviously create for things, other than just, the joy of just making something. There is a greater purpose behind it. And
Right.
so for what I can see, like you said, like the brand isn't born of an immigrant, it's barely broke. But for someone that may not know or be familiar with local brands or anything, like if I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm completely disconnected from California, and I might think that it is born of an immigrant, but that's what drew me in. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what caught my eye. It's like, yo, like I want to be able to wear this and be proud of it. And ultimately the fact that your clothing was able to make me feel that is something incredibly it's something that you should be incredibly proud of. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah,
And yeah.
definitely.
So in terms of like community, like what does I guess what does the designer creator community that you participate in look like in terms of like this type of movement? Are you the only one that's doing this type of thing, or like are you working with other designers to kind of push this message forward?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, my company itself is just me.
Uh-huh.
I did have partners, but like I said, man, it's when you have a company that's not really super profitable, based off of the stuff. I'm really passionate about getting these ideas out, and a lot of people kind of don't see eye to eye because it's not profitable, and people
Mm.
want to make money. If you work for a company, you want to make money. You don't want to be in a company where you're just not getting paid and this and this and that. So I understand that part. So unfortunately I kind of run it myself because of that. I have other things that I do to kind of finance myself. So for me, this is kind of something that's for fun, and
Oh, okay.
it's just a passion, man. It's just something that I don't make a bunch of money on, but like I'm just so passionate about it, and I want to create something that people are just so proud to wear. Um,
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
And
So
so how'd you get started with all of this stuff? I mean, I bet you even if it's for fun, like it must have been hard, getting the message out there and really getting people on board with this type
yeah,
of stuff,
yeah. I mean, it's like I've always worked. I had like regular jobs too. You know what I mean? Like recently, I've had other businesses, but like I mean, yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard to really work on something. Like you put so much money and effort into it, and then like you don't make the money back, and then you're like, okay, well, I got to make something else because people love it, and then and it's just like you do that so many times, you're just like, man, like I'm lose. It's almost like I'm losing so much money, um, just because I'm so like the passion is like outweighing everything to the point
Hmm.
where it's just like it's not. It doesn't make sense on a company business standpoint. You know, if you have an investor that comes in and looks at the numbers, it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And for them, they'll be like, well, why are you even still in business? It's just not profitable. But I think
Right.
I think for me, it's just like I said, man. It's so much deeper than just money. It's just really about just getting the message out and like, you know, if I can make a little money here, if I could break even, then I'm happy with that. You know, and if it could be, man, who knows? Like, you know, one day maybe I get a blessing and I just have hundreds of orders coming in every day. Like, you know, and that's
That'd
just
be something.
yeah, that's just that to me. That would be like, man, like I worked. It was all worth it. You know, all those years of just kind of like grinding it out, like it finally paid off. You know, and you know, hopefully that happens one day. But I don't. You know, that's not my number one focus. My number one focus is just keeping new concepts alive, just bringing fresh stuff, and then just like still remaining true to the brand and you know my beliefs at the end of the day. But
Yeah, and
it's
that's important.
yeah, and it sucks, man, because I see so many other brands benefiting off this immigration topic. You know, like
Yeah.
it almost seems like everybody wants a piece of the bread. Everybody wants a piece of the pie now because you know immigration is a hot topic. So let me make a you know I mean obviously people have used Born of an Immigrant. Like there's shirts on Amazon right now that completely took my whole thing and just slapped it on a shirt and selling it for like $15 on Amazon, on Redbubble. There's like 5 different sites that actually have
Dang.
taken my whole the actual wording word for word, bro. And it's and they're actually just doing it for profit. It's all just
Yeah.
you know, just make a cheap shirt with a saying on it, and let's all make money off of it.
You're
And
right.
and there's been other brands that kind of switch the wording, so they'll put like you know children of an immigrant or whatever. They'll just try to flip the wordplay around to mean the same thing, and then they'll do like a whole campaign, and like that's the
Mhm.
most frustrating part I think for me because a lot of people are just it's like cultural appropriation type of thing. Like I'm gonna jump on this because it's just a hot you know it's just a hot topic. Even though like let's just say like it would be like somebody that's like maybe half Latin or maybe has parents that are not immigrants, but they just feel compelled to be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make some money off this. This is a hot topic, you know, and I've
Right.
I've been seeing this a lot, man, and it's really sad to see how people just like would do anything for $1,
For
and
sure.
and you know what I mean. That I think that's one of my most frustrating things that I kind of wanted to talk about when it came to this is just like it's just letting kind of people know like man do your research when you buy those type of shirts, you know, like when somebody says that they're selling this shirt and it's getting donated to this uh you know this charity or whatever, like do research, like find out if this charity even accepts donations or like what are they really doing or like you know find out about the owner, find out who runs the company, like are they really about the message, are they really dealing with immigration within their family or you know what I mean? Like I think this is really important because I feel like a lot of people buy these products for because they obviously they want to wear something to represent themselves for them, but they don't kind of do research on like where it's coming from. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you
They
don't
don't
want to
know, like they don't know where those dollars are funneling into.
right. You're buying a Born of Immigrant shirt on Amazon. That's not going to me. You know what I mean? That's going
Mhm.
to you know Jeff Bezos and you know the whole company and Amazon and they're you know so it's just like you're supporting a company that you know that
That
isn't
sells technology to ICE.
right and it's not really supporting the movement like they should
Yeah.
be with all that money, you know what I mean? So um yeah man, I think that's to me that's one of the most frustrating things with this whole thing outside of me just like you know grinding it out and doing all that, just seeing that is just more frustrating than you know than anything because you know I'm out here really I really lived the motto. You know what I mean? I really took years, like a whole year, to create the verbiage and the wordplay for it, and for it to just get like tossed around and then
Stolen.
yeah, tossed around and just basically being used for profit is crazy to me,
That's
man.
wild. That is, and well, I mean, I say that it's wild, but that's typical. I mean, like at the same, this is the United States, right? And so everything needs to circulate in terms of making profit. I'm not saying it's okay by all means. In fact, that's what I speak out against. And it's sad that like, that you put all this work into a movement, and then it's co-opted by big businesses, right, just to make themselves a dollar. Like as you were telling me about like, about the shirts being on Amazon, you're right. Like there, I could literally see 3 of them, 4 of them in front of my face right now, and they
Yeah,
cost $17.99.
yeah, bro.
And it's crazy because you already know like the quality of those shirts are a little different and stuff like that. But even let's put even aside like the product itself, but it's the movement that's behind the product. It's like like you said, your dollars are going straight to Bezos, and Amazon, where the company itself hasn't really lived out le- at all, really lived out to the community that it supposedly serves, and it doesn't. There's been multiple scandals that came out about all of that, and in comparison to like artists like yourself or designers like yourself, that are actually putting in all this work, coming out and saying it like, hey, like my profit margins are barely nothing.
Right.
Like it's still though, like supporting me would still like allow me to put out more content. It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like content creators. So like myself, like that, I don't even accept donations for this podcast. I'm not asking for anything,
Exactly.
from this. This is literally something that I'm doing for fun, but also because I think it's important. And
Right.
so it's kind of crazy to hear you speak the way that you are, because I kind of align with that sentiment. It's like we're not doing this to get famous. We're not doing this to like, to become millionaires or anything like that. Like the important thing is that there's a movement that needs to progress, and the way that we know how to do that is by creating. And I can only imagine like if someone goes out and starts a podcast and I don't know, calls it Race to the Finish, right? And does the exact same thing, but then they have access to like li- they have
Millions
access
of
to
people.
like a top-notch studio, rich people, investors, put them on and everything, and then they just blow up using my ideas. You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Like that's crazy to think about. And the thing is, like that could actually happen. Like
It
you
happens
know?
all the time, bro. To be honest with you, a lot of independent designers or creatives go through that, and
Yeah, and
it's
it's crazy.
it's unfortunate that people don't do the research, though, man. That's like every time I buy something, bro. I really I don't know if like other people do this, but I like if I buy a brand, I want to know who the own like I want to know who the owner is. I want to know about them. I want to know where it's come from. I want to know the story of the brand. Like that's just the kind of consumer I am. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
like to know
yeah,
like even when I go shopping, bro, I go shopping at like Cardenas or I go shopping at like you know the little mom and pop Hispanic shop.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I'll go eat at like uh I won't eat at chains. I don't eat at like, big chains. I eat at little mom and pop spots around like there's a Salvadorian spot that I go to that's just literally a mom and pop spot, bro, where I go eat. Like it's
hmm
just like, that's just kind of like how I live my whole life. Um,
yeah,
and
and
I
that's
just
living responsibly.
yeah, I just wish a lot more people would kind of live that way, and I think it would help a lot of small businesses that deserve to be on a big scale. Get on that scale if people did that.
Right. And it kind of reminds me of this panel that I went to. So like I kind of like dip my feet into different things. Like, yeah, this podcast is probably my biggest project right now, but I got involved with the gaming space, so like the video game industry. So like that's this conference I'm going out to in Seattle. It's called PAX West.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so the kind of long short story behind that is like I won a contest to go out to PAX East, which was in Boston, and this was back in March. But I met this group is called Latinx in Gaming, and they were like super inspiring to me. Like literally, like that panel, like literally changed my life. Only because I saw people that look like me, that came from similar backgrounds like me or my parents, and it showed that like, hey, like if I want to get involved in this space, it's not just a dream at this point. Like there's literally people out here doing this. And so I asked them, I was like, how do I become you? And so they opened up the invitation for everybody that went, but like they, to join the group, this online community. So pretty much what ended up happening is that the one guy that was his name is Juan. he put out an invitation like, hey, like we're gonna put on a panel this time in Seattle, like hit me up if you're trying to go. And I said, hey, like I don't work in the gaming space, and I understand if you choose somebody else, but hey, I'm just shooting my shot. Like if you want
Yeah,
to, and he said, yeah, like you're on. I'm like, what? So
yeah,
it
bro.
literally like if you give yourself a shot, somebody else will give you a shot. You know,
100%.
like if you show like, hey, like I'm confident in this dream enough where like I'm literally about to go borderline crazy for this, like somebody will say like, dang, this person has this much passion, behind what they're doing. Maybe I should give him a shot, and that happened for me. So
Yeah,
when we're going out there, um, we're gonna talk about all these different types of things, and I'm like deeply excited about that, and the fact that I'm able to do that, I want to be able to show that other people who may just be curious, like, hey, like you can do this too. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I feel like we're also obligated to do that.
That's powerful, man. Because the gaming industry, man, that's what's next, bro. It's actually you're actually doing a really good thing right now because I didn't even think about a Latin community in the gaming industry till you just brought that up. Like that just blew my mind right now because that's literally the future. Like all the gamers I've been seeing have been for the most part like white guys. You know, the ones that are killing it. So I haven't really seen representation in that like realm yet.
Hmm.
So I think,
Yeah,
man,
and
I
if
think
you think about it
that's gonna
too,
be huge.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that's gonna be huge, bro. And I'm glad that you're catching it early because it's definitely a little early for most people, but that industry's moving
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, and that's for sure. But aside, I guess where I was going with it though is like, I guess has there been like, and thank you by the way for the compliments. I'm not
Oh,
trying to like blow that off.
no,
It's
no,
just how
no.
I am. Like it's nice, but I got to keep it moving. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, no, I just had to tell you, bro, because that just blew my mind. I didn't even think about
Yeah.
representation in that realm. That's
Thank
crazy.
you. Thank you. And I guess where I was going with it though is like, how do you see like the next generation of designers that want to get into this space? Like what would you tell them? Like what to look out for, or what like advice would you give the next generation?
I mean, really, man, it's really easy with this new generation to kind of follow footsteps and kind of like do what other people are doing. Just especially with like YouTube and like all these things. Like literally, there's courses that people have that you pay and they teach you exactly how to make a brand. They'll teach you like, oh, you
Hmm.
want to start a brand, pay us this much money, and we'll teach you how to make a brand from scratch. And like, I think there's going to be a lot of that coming up, and a lot of that doesn't come with passion. Like it's a lot of it just is driven by profit. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, they could do it, I could do a brand too. And I think um I think that's going to be a problem. And I just think that more people should just do it for the actual. They should actually do it to get a message that they have. Um,
Yeah.
that they want to portray, you know what I mean? And they want to give off to the world. And I don't think it should be about like, oh, well, let me have somebody teach me how to, um, make a brand to make some money. Like it's more about just like you really being passionate about what you're doing. I mean, it sounds so cliche, bro. Like, but
Right. Right. Doesn't it though?
I hate saying that because a lot of people ask me like, oh, what do you think I should do? Like, what would you tell me as an upcoming designer? And it's just like, bro, follow your passion. You know what I mean? It's just it sounds
Yeah.
funny, but it's like, bro, that's really what drives like next level ideas. Is like if you don't have that passion and you don't love it, you're not gonna come with these born of immigrant like conceptual things within your brand. It's just gonna be like you're just going to be slapping logos everywhere and it's just not ever going to really be meaningful to you. And I mean
Hmm.
it sounds cliche, man, but it's really passion is really what drives brands to the next level. And it's really what inspires me to buy a brand is when I see like these designers like really really grinding, really putting the details into each piece, really putting the quality out. Like that inspires me to buy something. And You know what I mean? I don't really buy a lot of clothing, bro. Like it's rare for me to buy clothing, but when I buy it, even if it's expensive, like it's because like I really respected the passion that went into that garment, or the design, the passion that that designer put in, put into that whole, you know what I mean, into that piece. So yeah, I mean, it's just going to get a little more difficult to be passionate, just because a lot of things are going to be able, like, handed to you in a sense. Like, oh, you want to make a brand? Yeah, here's how you do it. Boom. And it's just like, I feel like that's just going to take away from passion, because you're going to rely on other people kind of telling you how to do it, and then you're going to start seeing a couple dollars, and it's going to be hard to just kind of like really dig deep and really have the purpose that you want. So I mean,
Right.
that
And
that's my biggest thing, is just move with passion. Just let that steer you through everything. That's how the concepts are going to come to you. You know, if you're thinking about fashion all day every day, like if you're thinking about, like, all the concepts are going to come, bro. Like if you think about music all day, you know, you want to be an artist, all you do is research like artistry, or all you do is research old music so that you can get inspired by old music. Like eventually you're going to be a great artist, you know what I mean, because that's just what your life's
mhm.
about, you know. So it's just, I don't know, it's a tough
No,
question,
and I want you to
everybody's
feel
different.
I want you to feel confident in what you're saying too. It's because, like, yeah, you're right. I feel weird when I tell people that too. It's like it just sounds so cliche. Like I hope they don't think like I'm just telling them something so they can go away. Like it's literally that. And so, like, you know, I don't want to sound apathetic to people's excuses, like, because that's not what I mean at all. Like when I say like you just gotta have passion. Like if you have a dream, go for it. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, it doesn't. It matters to an extent, obviously, but like it doesn't necessarily matter as much as people think. Like what your circumstances are. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have like a vision, if you have a dream, you're gonna be more upset with yourself if you don't do something about it, right? Or ever do something about it, no matter what. And you know, you got to be able to try things out, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I kind of said this in the last episode too, because we were kind of I was talking with my friend. Her name is Yana. She started her own little clothing business too. It's really more like a t-shirt brand and stuff, but still it has equal, like it's all passion behind it, like representing her community, the Garifuna community. And you know, so then she said is like there's power in what you say. And it's very true, like what you put out there, you know, through your words is what ultimately motivates you to actually get it done. And so if we keep on telling ourselves like, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do this because, or I can't, like, because may be true, the thing is like how will you overcome? And I'm glad that you put it into the words that you did, is because if you have a passion behind something, that's all you're going to look up. Like if your passion is about clothing, you're only going to research clothing because that's what you love to do. If your passion is podcasting, you're going to listen to podcasts, you're going to study podcasts, you're going to talk to podcasters, and because that's what you ultimately want to do, and that skill set translates into your craft.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I never actually thought about it that way, and I'm glad you said it. Man, that's why I love the show. Like I learned so many new things.
Yeah. But like what's important though, man, is also like you have to have something substantial though. Like it has to be powerful too. Like, because I mean, a lot of people, you know, have these ideas and be like, "Oh, this would be cool," but it's like you really have to dig into that concept and see if other people are doing that too. Like before I
Mm,
did Born of an Immigrant, bro, I researched everywhere. Like I literally Google searched. I did everything I could to realize that it hadn't been touched. So that's why I moved forward with it. But you also got to do that research too, because you know there's millions of people in this world, bro, and a lot of people, you're gonna think of the same topic. You know what I mean? And
right.
you don't research if it's already been done. You know, you might not be motivated when you find out like, oh damn, like this person's been doing that this whole time, or this person
Mm,
already dropped that. Like damn, like. And I just think you got to do that research too. I think it's important to be like, if you have an idea, like really find out if it's something that's really gonna like push through. If you really have something that's substantial and is more powerful than anything out, or if it's even been done. Um,
right.
because I
And
do
that's
see
true.
a lot of the same stuff, like people preaching the same message,
Yeah.
in a different way. And it's like, not to take away from that person, but, you know, like if that particular concept's been done, like you kind of want to just kind of steer away from it sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not to like demotivate people, but I mean, like, like right now, like if, if somebody drops a born of immigrant line, it's just like, and they might not know that I exist in the world, but they didn't do the research. They
But it's
might
kind of like, what are you
look
doing?
kind of silly. It might look kind of silly. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't know. I think that's important just as much as just being passionate. It's just kind of like also doing your work and your research, making sure that it's something that's different and new and fresh.
Yeah, and that's also really important that you said that too. And it kind of reminds me of my own creative process with this show. It's like I remember I was sitting at a diner, because so I don't know if I never told you this, but like Race to the Finish actually started as a school project a year ago. I produced 7 episodes and I stopped because I was afraid that I would have like a racist employer that would fire me if I continued. And that was such a
Mm.
stupid thought. Like, but it's a realistic one, I think.
It
And so
is.
that's why yeah, like that's why I stopped doing the show. But then I got angry at myself. I'm like, why did I stop doing that? Like, I have a passion, like, and I upset a lot of people by stopping the show. Like it extended far beyond a school assignment. I guess we can say.
Right.
And part of this assignment though is that, like, or a proof of that is I was sitting at this diner for breakfast, and I'm like, I got to think of a name for this thing. Like, I know what the idea is, right? But what's the name of it? And I was literally like on my iPad, I was looking up stuff, and I was like, what is something that's different that you got to think about, but it's not obvious for a
Mm.
title? And I thought about Race to the Finish. And and the thing is, that thought came to my head because I was thinking about Super Smash Brothers. and, and there's and for the one for the GameCube for Super Smash Bros. Melee, like there was a mode called Race to the Finish. And I'm like, okay, so how does the Super Smash Brothers relate to race and ethnicity and culture? It doesn't. It's just a video game. But the thing is, like, the words "race to the finish,"
It's the
it
wordplay.
imply right, it's wordplay, like race, obviously race, but to
Right.
the finish also has significance. Is that, like, we're continuing, like you said earlier on in the episode, that the goal, the goal, the mission is to end racism, right? The thing is, the way that I look at it is that we're all kind of rushing to get there. We're all trying to figure out an answer. That's what the finish is. And so that's kind of like what the title encapsulates. But no one would really know that by reading it. But the fact that I can have a conversation behind it is what it really means. And so by doing that research, right, I was like, is there any podcasts out there that are named Race to the Finish? And I don't think there is a single one. I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but there isn't a single one. And that's when I was like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm naming the podcast. And that's important. So like when it comes, I don't know about any other brands that are named Barely Broke. I have never seen Born of an Immigrant on any other clothing besides when you brought this Amazon thing to my attention. And that goes to show that, yeah, it's out there, but it's not nearly as quality as yours. I mean, it kind of shows that, like, I was able to find your clothing on my own through social media, and that means that your clothing is influential. That means, like, it has higher ethical quality, I guess you could say.
Right.
And so, but yeah, man, we discussed a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm glad I got to be able to have this conversation with you and get to know you a little bit better. You're really doing some good things out here, and I
Likewise.
really wish you the best. So what is next though? For Bailey Broke, like, where
Um,
do you see it going?
like I said, I have another collection. I've been working on the whole year. Last time I dropped the collection was in January. Um, that was the
Hmm.
Power to the People collection. Um, and so it's been a long time, and I've had this next collection is called Fear No Man, which is I haven't even told anybody, so this is like kind of new.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it's called Fear No Man, and it's basically just another powerful collection that I've kind of had in my head for years now, and I've finally been able to lay it out, and it's pretty much I'm doing all the little shoots now and getting the final stuff done. But I'm gonna release that in September. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah, and that's gonna be like I think it's gonna be powerful because it's gonna have so you know how the Born an Immigrant design is kind of simplistic. It's just font.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured out a way to make it like an actual design,
Oh,
like
nice.
like like
Okay.
like a visual now, as opposed to just font. So that I'm introducing that, which is like you can say part two to Born of Immigrant design. So like the next elevated design to that, and it's all hand drawn. It's man, it's powerful, bro. Like
I can't wait to see it.
you don't even have to read the words "Born of an Immigrant." Just the actual imagery is gonna say that.
Wow.
Like it's just it's. So I'm excited about that, man, because I think I've kind of been writing this Born of like it's just been not that I've been writing it, but it's just people love the boldness of it. So I was like, why am I gonna change what people just love wearing it bold on their shirt or across the hat? But I think as a creative, you always want to like step outside of the comfort zone and really take it to the next level. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
just my creative self was like, I need imagery for that. I need to let people know like, damn, like it's not just a font. Like it's and I mean it's a message, but I'm just a deeper thinker, bro. I want it to be powerful in every aspect. So
And that's dope. And I'm sure it will be, just because after hearing this conversation, I have no doubt that it won't be power, or I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah,
It will be powerful.
it
It
will,
will be
man.
powerful.
And then outside of that, I'm continuing my Power of Giving campaign. So with every order, I don't know if you know this, but I started doing this probably the beginning of the year. But
Hmm.
with every order, I actually give people money. Like I put money in an envelope, and so what you're supposed to do with that is you can give it to like somebody in need, or you can donate it to any charity that you want. So sometimes it's $1, sometimes it's $5. It's really random depending on like really what I have in my pocket at that moment. Whenever the order comes in, but that's something that I've been doing this whole year, and I think it's something that nobody's done, and I think it's not even a big company is willing to take money out of their pocket and actually give it back to the customer.
Wow.
Whether it be $1, whether it be whatever. So that's a campaign that I'm pushing still, even though like a lot of people have not been responsive to that. So I don't know where the money went. Like a lot of people haven't like emailed me back saying like, "Hey, thanks for the money I donated to this." I haven't got a lot of that, so I'm kind of worried if it's really translating.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's in an envelope, and it gives you a whole paragraph, and it talks about the whole power of giving and how important that is. So, and also I did this because I feel like a lot of people question companies when they be like, for example, like I have a born immigrant, so a lot of people are probably going to ask me like, "Oh, do you even donate to immigration, or like do you even donate to these companies and these charities that are doing things?" And that's actually a lot harder than what it sounds like, because it's really hard to donate to these kids, for example, that are in the ICE facility. Like you
Right.
can't just donate to them. Like it's a lot harder than what people say. People think it's like, oh, well, you should just donate money to those kids. Like that money doesn't go to those kids. Like there's so many like little loopholes in that. So so
Right.
basically what I'm
Go
trying to
ahead.
do is kind of like let people know like, look, like I'm obviously I'm helping as much as I can, but like let me put it in your hands as well. Like, okay, like you question where this money might be going to, or if I'm even helping, then I'm gonna put money back in your pocket, and I'm gonna let you do this, do what you got to do with it. So if you feel like I'm not doing my job, then donate that money to the organization that you think is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
So it's kind of like honestly, bro, it's outlandish. It's like, especially when I'm telling you that I'm not making that much money, and for me to go and do this again on top of that, it sounds like ridiculous. You know what I mean? But man, that's just how much I really just like am trying to hit it like from all angles, and just really just like let people know, like, damn, like, how can I not support them? Like, they're giving so much value to me as a customer. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and at the end of the day, I'm just trying to be different, man. I'm trying to be a company that's just done things that other companies have never done before. Like if I ever receive money, bro, in my order, I'll flip. I'll be like, yo, this is like I would make sure I tell everybody. I'd be like, bro, if you order from them, like they literally gave me like money back, like
Yeah.
in an envelope. Like who does that? So that's kind of the whole thing too. It's just kind of to really get people talking and really just to get people knowing like man, this is a real company and this is a company that really cares. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man. Other than that, that's just this collection is kind of the next thing, and then um, just keep coming up with new concepts. I don't really have a your like I'm really unorthodox when I drop clothing. Like I don't have like a spring, a fall, a summer. I really just drop whenever, and I don't. And if I feel like dropping a hoodie in the summer, I'll drop a hoodie in the summer, bro. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm not really stuck on the traditions of collections and seasons. I'm just more about if I designed a hoodie at that particular time and it happens to be June, then I mean it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's just I work at kind of my own pace, and I just it's kind of sporadic, bro. Like sometimes I'll drop 4 collections a year, sometimes I'll drop one. So it kind of keeps like an exclusivity to it as well. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, marketing standpoint probably ridiculous because you're not feeding the customer consistently. Like when you have a product, you want to make sure they consistently are hearing from you. You know what I mean? Or you're there's like feedback consistently, and like there'll be times where customers won't hear nothing for 6 months. Like what happened to this brand? Like did they even exist? And then boom, I just pop out of nowhere and have a collection. So it's on a marketing and business standpoint, bro. I'm probably doing it all wrong, but but like I said, man, I just love doing it. So I don't really.
Hey, I really admire what you're doing, and I truly mean that. Like, and my friends know like what I mean by this is like, I'm very negative about business. You know what I'm saying? Like I get skeptical when, we talked about this earlier in the episode. It's like when somebody puts a message or uses like a social issue, right, and puts it on clothing and just kind of sells it on Amazon to make a buck. Like that's exactly the type of stuff that I'm skeptical about is someone co-opting something, a very real issue, and using it to make money to get a piece of that pie, not necessarily because they want to help. But all of these things that you're telling me about, like, the power of giving, right? Or your next collection or your next, all of that, like it reassures me that, yeah, like your heart is truly in the right place. Like the goal is to make a difference. The goal is to be different, to show that like, hey, like what I'm doing is truly going to make a difference. And if you don't think that I'm making a difference, then you make the difference.
Exactly.
It's not only about, supporting a movement, but it's also challenging yourself to start a movement. And that's like really really powerful. And so, but yeah, man, so like we kind of like ran the time for the episode and stuff. We
Yeah,
could
bro,
really
my
talk
bad.
about,
No, you.
no
I
no
know you
no no
said
it's
that.
no one's bad, it's no one's bad. It's just that like I just what I wanted to say is that like we talked about so much, and I really hope that listeners can feel inspired to kind of go on and look at their own craft or look at their own talents and passions and say, hey, like I can do this, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
um and I ask every guest at the end of the episode to answer two things. So like the first question would be, if you could say one last thing before signing off in the episode, what would it be? And then do you have any shout outs, and how can we follow you on social media and stuff like that, and all of that. So I guess we'll start with the first one. Yeah, like, if you could say one last thing before we sign off with the episode, what would it be?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, man, I think more people should just really into what they're buying. You know what I mean? Like, really do research on the companies that you're buying from, really see what these people are about, and just really know who you're supporting, man. And I think like I was telling you, that's one of the most frustrating things is you have companies like Amazon and all these companies making the same thing I'm making, but at like a low cost. So like, and it's just from people not researching where the original product came from. So I think that's my biggest thing, is to tell people, is just kind of do your due diligence and kind of do a little more research on what you consume and what you buy. But yeah.
Right. And do you have any shout outs or anything like that?
Man, I don't even know what to say, bro. Just shout out everybody that supports the brand. You know, my family, my girl, everybody.
Awesome. And then how can we follow you on social media? Like what are your handles and stuff like that? How can we engage, and the website too?
So I have an actual brand Instagram, which is Barely Broke LA. And then I
Okay.
have my personal, which is Born of an Immigrant. So I actually just took that as my name, like on the Instagram. So both of them
All
are
right,
connected
that's
to
awesome.
me, and then the website is also barelybrokela.com.
Cool. Cool. And for listeners out there, that I'll put all the links into the description. And I want to thank Rick. Rick, thank you so much for coming on to the
Thank you,
show.
man. I
I learned a
appreciate
lot.
that.
And it rekindled my fire to keep on doing what I'm doing. And I really hope I'm representing the listener here, and I hope that that can rekindle their fire too. And for the listeners out there, if you want to write into the show, you can email me, Carlos at race2 thefinish.live. I'm still not done with this damn website yet. Like I started a new job, and it's just I'm going to PAX in a couple weeks, so there's a lot going on. So please be patient with me about this website. It'll get done eventually. But you can listen to the show on YouTube, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, and Stitcher. I think that's everything. But yeah, so subscribe, follow, write a review, whatever you want. And tune in next time. There's going to be a lot more content coming here in the next 2 weeks. But thank you again, Rick. And everyone, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.